I'm gonna pull a little trim down. There we go. Because I don't mind eating the mic. Because the air's on, I'd rather have the air than a hot mic. I'd rather have a hot mic than a hot building. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. All right. Everybody, welcome back. Today we have an amazing episode. We're super excited because we're talking about something we have absolutely no idea what we're doing.
Right. We're going to deep dive into a subject we know nothing about.
Yeah.
But it's a question that I get all the time.
Yes.
And that is, okay, let's talk about connectivity. You know, what is the best way to travel and have Wi-Fi, cell service, all of that, right?
Right.
And I know a little bit. Hey, I have Starlink. Woo!
Well, you know, you are way ahead because when I was traveling, I had a Verizon hotspot.
Yep.
And there was a brief moment of time where they said, hey, if you sign up, you get unlimited. Well, unlimited meant something different than
unlimited
what we
and
thought.
Throttled.
Yes. Yeah. It was a little different than what we thought unlimited meant. But today we have a special guest, special good dear friend of ours, but he is a wizard when it comes to connectivity. I mean, he's posted pictures of his system, and it's like there's 5 of these, 6 of these. I don't know what these are. That's why I'm saying these. It's like he is so set up. It's ridiculous. So I'm super excited.
So, yeah, without any delay.
Without any more delay.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and announce who we have on our channel today.
The one and only Chad from Changing Lanes.
Howdy.
Oh, hold on a second. Let's put some applause in here. Chad, you might not be able to hear that in the background.
You have sound effects. That's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to give 2 boys some money, and all of a sudden they start doing with little toys. Can't go without it. Well, Chad, I do thank you for coming on, and we're going to deep dive into the connectivity. Everyone knows you have a wonderful system, but no one knows. Well, I say no one in our sphere knows how that works.
And just to let you know, our viewer, and I mean that singularly, our viewer, we're looking down at Chad down here. So if we're not looking at the camera, we're looking at Chad. We're not trying to
even though he's awesome, we look down on him.
Yeah. It makes us feel better.
I do the same thing. You guys are down here, but I got to look up here.
Right.
Yeah.
So I look back and forth. All right. Well, take it away, Chad. So this is, you know, we even said that we don't really even know what the questions to ask. Right. So we'll look like we're, doing something.
I think we break it down just like we did in the solar video.
Yeah.
It's me and I just want to have cell service everywhere in the country. That's kind of a big deal because depending on your carrier, you may not have cell service. Like T-Mobile does well in the city, but not in certain areas. Now, what if I have kids and I want to do streaming everywhere? You know, that's a whole nother setup. And then what if I'm a full-time worker out on the road where I need constant connectivity and sometimes some decent upload speed?
Isn't it funny? I want an RV and I want to limit what RVing is like, but then I need everything.
Well, I think that's the same thing with solar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm a minimalist with 5,000 watts on the roof and 2,000 amp hours of batteries.
I want to have everything, and I want to dodge to pull it. You know, that's just asking too much.
Well, I think Chad and I are Ford people, so
that's why I can say that.
Yeah.
All right. So we already said, we'd already said we'd take it over to, give it to him. Welcome, Chad. Thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Well, there we go.
So here's the internet system. That's it. Any questions?
All right. That's great for coming on. Thank you very much. All right.
No, you touched on a couple of key things with internet. No, the first thing you got to know with mobile internet, and when I say mobile internet, I mean anything that can get you internet out on the road. You know, you're not going to be home connected to fiber, that kind of thing. The biggest thing is it's super complicated. It's really not, people ask all the time, what should I get? And it's different based on, like you mentioned, what you're going to be using it for. Do you just want to browse the web? Do you just want to be able to make phone calls? So you go from the very basic and simple, like using your actual phone as a hotspot, which is certainly doable. If your plan allows it, all the way up to this, system that I just showed you that has, where'd it go? That has, multiple cellular embedded routers and all that kind of stuff. So I always say if you don't know anything about it and you want to learn, a really, really good resource that I used back before we were RVing back in 2017 is called the Mobile Internet Resource Center. Those guys eat, sleep, breathe, live mobile internet, all mobile internet, Starlink, cellular, all that stuff. And they have some really good resources here. I'll show you real quick if I could share my screen. They have some really good resources for if you want to learn how mobile internet works. And one thing they have, and again, I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get any kind of commissions or anything. They're just really good. They're really the only resource out there. But they have a mobile internet video course that will take you through the whole kind of concept of the different options, everything from mobile carriers and data plans up to mobile routers and antennas and all that. So, is that
a free course?
No, it's part of their. It is a paid course. I'm not sure exactly what the price is on it, but you can go. I'll have some links for you if you want to share it. To go out and take a look at what they have. And they've got like a basic course that comes with their membership, and then another course that you can add on to that, and that's the one that has all the really good stuff. But I've been a member of their insiders or membership or whatever you call it for a long time, and honestly it's because of them. Whenever there's a big change in the industry, whenever there's a new data plan, a data plan is going away, they will send you an email and say, hey, if you want to get this AT&T plan, it's going away, get it now. And I did that in 2017, and I still have the same truly unlimited AT&T plan for like $15 a month. So that is
the
awesome.
Prepaid one?
No, this was tied to, where'd my window go?
I remember Verizon actually did a prepaid plan once where it was truly unlimited. But it wasn't the fastest thing in the world. It really depended on where you were. So, and
that's the key. That's the key too. Is I mentioned starting out with something like this. We have AT&T on our phones, but what happens when we go to somewhere where AT&T stinks, but Verizon's good or T-Mobile's good?
What do you do?
So that's where diversity of connection options really comes into play. And that again, that leans towards those people who are going to maybe work from the road or maybe have kids and you don't want them to not be able to stream or whatever. Having some diversity. Starlink, as you mentioned, Todd, has been really great because it will work anywhere you have a clear view of the sky. And so that it'll work. I'm not saying it's going to work well. It'll depend on both your plan, the type of antenna and stuff like that. But it's a great option because on that one you can literally go into the middle of the desert where you can't reach a cell tower and it will work.
Okay, so starting at the beginning, if I'm just looking for something to where I have internet access,
you're looking for something to wear.
No matter where I wear,
yeah.
No matter where I'm at, right? So you're saying one of the cheapest way to get into it, use your phone. Certain plans you do have limits. I think mine's like 20 gig or something used as a hotspot. But then you're saying possibly get a different carrier for those instances where you may not have access. But there are areas in the country where no carriers work, right? So that's
definitely.
So now you're having to kind of tailor your trip based on your cell service. And we should actually do that. We would use an app called Coverage and see what carriers were covered in our next location to make sure it had good internet. But we've been doing it for so long now, and we have such a wide array of options. We actually have. I'll show you here.
Is it like
we actually have currently running? We have Starlink, T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T. running.
So those are all going into the same. So tell me how that works. So is it like where it's
all the
taking all the bandwidth and putting it together?
Yeah, and that's a feature of the Peplink routers that's called Speedfusion.
Man,
you've heard of VPNs, right? Where you have like a virtual connection on top of your connection. Well, this is the same kind of idea. It's a virtual connection, but it combines whatever you can shove into it, whether it be Starlink. Sometimes we're in campgrounds that have decent Wi-Fi. We'll hit their Wi-Fi and bundle that in. But again, this is the high end of the of the spectrum. You know, we've actually got 2 cellular embedded routers up here, all kind of bundled together to look like one router.
That's a nerdy flex, my friend.
Yeah.
Do you have 2 cellular routers? Yeah.
I don't mean to brag, but I do have 2 cellular embedded routers.
But yeah, but like you're saying, just having some diversity is good. So, you know, if you've got your phone plan and then you've got like a Verizon plan on a mobile device like this, a little hotspot, you know, a lot of people, that's all they need. They just want to be able to stream some TV and things like that. The catch always comes into what you mentioned, which is the unlimited. What is unlimited? You know,
right.
And most of the time it means, oh, you can stream as much as you want up to 22 gigabytes, and after that we're going to cut you down to like dial up, you know,
nerf
AOL speeds.
Gonna nerf you.
Did that happen?
So technically
Todd?
it's unlimited, but in reality a lot of them are not.
I think Todd's internet went out, and then he had to use his hotspot on his phone, and then he couldn't even open an email because he got put in bandwidth prison.
I know, and you know what it was? Now I have a VPN, and my VPN couldn't connect, and it doesn't like tell you the VPN doesn't connect. So all I did once I figured that out, I went in, turned it off, turned it back on, and everything popped back.
Oh, that's what it was?
Yeah.
Oh.
So this is why we have Chad on here. You got a question about your RV? I can help out.
Yeah.
You got a question about food? I can help out. But I know my limits.
So if somebody, we got comments already about, you know, what do you guys do for wireless connectivity?
Yeah. I get that a lot. Can you teach on that? I'm like, no, I can't.
And it seems like you have the option of getting a couple different types of phone services, but that one really is probably going to be the most limiting, right? Especially when it comes to hotspot.
And probably the most costly.
Yeah, you know, using your phone as a hotspot. I know a few years ago it used to be you had to like buy an extra option to be able to use your phone as a hotspot. I don't think it's like that anymore, but it still may depend on your plan. Sometimes your plan will specify you can have so many gigabytes of on-device data and then so many gigabytes of hotspot data. But you're right. The key is they're just a little bit limited. Additionally, as an actual mobile device, it's a little bit limited too. The Wi-Fi, as far as being a Wi-Fi hotspot sort of router, isn't always great. It's typically going to be inside your RV, so it's going to have to go through the walls. And if you've got something like an Airstream with metal surrounding you, that can really be an issue.
It's a rolling Faraday cage.
Exactly. You know, but you know, again, one step up from that would be something like this little hotspot here. Some of these actually have, I'm not sure if this one does, some of these actually have antenna ports, so you can connect an external antenna. Our first revision, our first internet, if you go back onto our website and just search internet, you'll see we've done 4 videos now. If you go back to the first one, we were actually using hotspots and a little router called a Wi-Fi Ranger that could connect to the hotspot over USB. And then from the hotspot, I connected to a little suction cup antenna on the window and use it that way. And so then it would be a matter of whenever I got to a site, I have to test each window and see which one has the best signal. It can get to be a mess, but you know what we have now is we've got an antenna on the roof. So if you look at this, picture here, you can see the one on the left there with all the wires going up and out. That goes up to what's called an 11-in-1 antenna. It's 11 antennas in one up on the roof.
Wow.
But that's another thing you're going to learn too, is there's a thing called MIMO, which is multiple in, multiple out. And most phones now and routers support that. And all that means is rather than having one antenna talking to the tower, you might have 2 antennas. That's 2x2 MIMO. In the 5G world, you've got 4 antennas, and all 4 of those antennas can talk at the same time on different frequencies and kind of bundle it all together. So the more antennas you can have, the better, and the higher you can get them, the better. You know, back to your talking about out in the middle of the desert where there's no cell signal, you can sometimes put an antenna up on a pole really high and get that line of sight to the tower and have it work. So
some people, talk about the range extenders, and some RVs actually come with those built in. What's your what's your take on those?
If it's a Wi-Fi booster, and we used to use one, the big thing with the Wi-Fi booster is, you remember I talked about that MIMO where you've got 4 antennas talking, right? So you've got 4 antennas talking. The trouble is that cellular booster only talks on one channel. So I see people sometimes who have this, have the booster up and running like all the time. And that's really not the way to go, because if this guy has 4 antennas in it and it gets a good connection, don't even mess with a booster, because as soon as you put the booster in, it limits this thing down to 1 channel versus 4. So you can actually hurt your performance by using a booster if you're already in a decent signal area. If the booster should only be used if you're far, far away, from the actual cell towers.
Okay, so if you just learned something, go ahead and hit the like button and comment down below. That was awesome.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I had no idea. I used to use the Wi-Fi Ranger.
You're taking notes.
You are actually taking notes. I see it.
You don't have to. You can just play this back.
There you go.
That's not how it worked.
Okay, so yeah, I used to use it all the time regardless. And the one I had, you actually had to go in, log into it, and set up the IP. And it was very cumbersome. So I eventually just stopped.
That's the thing, stuff has gotten better. I mean, they're making it a lot easier now to turn on your hotspot and connect, but it's still very complicated. I mean, if you don't understand something like I just mentioned, and you think, oh, I got a booster, I'm just going to boost all the time, you could actually be hurting your connection versus helping it.
So what if you got 4 boosters?
Bam.
I don't know. I think it would create a rip in space-time, and you would probably...
Right. Just disappear.
I think they would probably talk over each other. I don't think it would work.
I'm just saying, so that we can get all 4. Yeah.
Okay, so you've got multiple.
The better thing to do is what we used to do. Rather than put up a booster antenna to an actual booster, was I would put up a 4x4 MIMO antenna on a pole and just basically extend the reach of my actual antenna higher.
Yeah.
But even just having one on the roof is a much better than you're going to get inside here. You're not really going to have to worry about where that antenna is.
So an outdoor antenna hardwired into an indoor distributor, you get past the whole Faraday cage thing that you were talking about.
So the MIMO thing is like a box that connects to an antenna?
MIMO just means multiple in, multiple out, but to get MIMO to work, you have to have more than one antenna. So when you're shopping for roof antennas for any kind of RV, but particularly for an Airstream because they're made of metal, you want to match up your antenna to your router capabilities. So if your router, and again, depending on what you've got, so like these little guys, some of them only have 2 ports, but most of your cellular embedded routers will have antenna ports based on the type of modem they have in there. If it's a 5G modem, it's typically going to have 4 antenna ports, and if it's LTE router, it's typically going to have 2. 2x2 MIMO versus 4x4. So, but you're right, just getting that antenna out and outside and on the roof, gets it elevation, gets it outside all the interference of metal in the RV and stuff, that interference that it can cause.
Okay, so something like that could solve a problem with somebody that's just having bad connectivity, and they have a router in their rig. They would plug the antenna ports from that router to this MIMO antenna. This is probably why they need to maybe take that class. We'll have to put the link. Might have to put the link in the description, because I mean it's making sense.
If you look at this picture here, you can see all these wires going in there. 4 of them are for one modem, 4 of them are for another modem, 2 are for Wi-Fi, and 1 is for GPS. So basically that particular box that you saw on the wall there has 2 built-in cellular modems. So it can connect to 2 cellular carriers at the same time. And that's why it's got 8 antennas going out, 4 on one and 4 on the other, up onto the roof to get that better signal going out. That's called I really like the Peplink gear, because they're super, they integrate well with all of their stuff. So I mentioned that I've got that other one sitting right next to it here. The guy on the right there is a called a BR1, and it's a single modem router, and you can see it's got 4 antennas sitting on it, just because I don't have a roof antenna for that one. But it still picks up pretty good. But when I look at this interface in here, let me fire up this. I didn't switch it. Hold on. Lots of buttons. When you look in the interface here, this AT&T connection right here is actually sitting inside that router on the right. T-Mobile and Verizon are in the router on the left, and Starlink is connected to the router on the left. So it sees all of these like it's one unit and lets me manipulate them. So like right now, I am connected. Here's our data right now going through all 4 connections, and I could be cruising along fine, and all of a sudden, oh, lost AT&T, oh, lost T-Mobile, and I just shut both of those down. But we're going to keep running here because it's going to pick up the slack on the other 2.
So it's man, it's hard to wrap your head around.
Like a RAID system, like your hard drive. You got 15 hard drives in there.
Well, it's like you're creating one network with 4 completely different networks. I mean, I don't understand how it can keep all those packets together if they're going to different places. One's going to a satellite, the other ones are going to towers here on Earth. But
yeah, well, that's a good question. The key to that is because, and there are different technologies around this. It's called bonding. Whenever you take more than one connection and bundle them together, it's called bonding. And to do any kind of bonding, you do have to have something on the internet, something on the other side. So in this case, the Speedfusion is connecting to a Speedfusion server that's actually owned and run by Peplink as part of their service. So yeah, you're right.
So it's actually all going there first.
Yes.
Okay.
So like right now, this video connection is going through Verizon and Starlink, going to the internet, going to the Peplink servers. The Peplink server is, opening all those packets up, putting them all back together, and sending them out the internet as if I'm sitting wherever that server is, wherever that thing is, because it's a VPN.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, and inside that you can specify different levels of resiliency. So right now, I don't think I have it set for any redundancy, but you can set different levels of redundancy where it will take your packets of data, be it voice or video or whatever, send them down multiple paths. So you use more of your bandwidth, but you gain in resiliency. So whenever we do live streams for our channel, I always turn that on, and that way if I drop any connections or one of them goes out, everything keeps running on the back end, because you've got multiple copies of that data going out of the internet. But again, that's way more than what most people are going to need. Most people would be fine. A really solid solution would be that single router, that BR1 that's on the right there. That's the one I usually recommend because you could put your SIM card directly in that. It's got a cellular embedded router, and you can also connect it to a Starlink, and you can do that bonding right there with those two very easily.
Okay, so that still requires you to have like a separate line. Like if I have 2 phones, I would basically be paying for 3 and put that SIM card in that modem.
Yeah, again, depends on the plan. That's probably the most difficult part of getting a solid multiple carrier setup is the data plans. Because you can buy all the best hardware in the world, but if you don't have a data plan to plug into it, or let's just say, you spend thousands of dollars on all this gear and you put a SIM card in it that has 10 gigs of data, what good is it?
About 10 gigs worth.
About 10 gigs.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, none of the carriers right now, even T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, none of them have true unlimited plans. They're unlimited, but they're, like we talked about, they're throttled after a certain amount. So you have to go to data brokers or third parties to get data plans. And those can be risky because, I don't know if you remember, there was one recently that was pushed by lots of RV YouTubers.
I recall this one.
You got to watch those RV YouTubers, man.
RV
Yeah,
Wi-Fi.
wasn't us. But they had some problem and went bust or something for a while. And that's the thing is, if your data broker is doing shady things in the back end that you don't know about, and then the carrier finds out and says, you're done, all of their connections are gone, including yours.
Wow.
But
I
we're
didn't
currently
hear that
using,
happening.
Oh yeah, it
was that?
There was a scuttlebutt for a while. I think it was. I may totally say it wrong, but I thought it was like RV Wi-Fi. Yeah, there was something out there. They were kind of bundling stuff together.
No kidding. Let us know in the comments if you got caught in that. Our viewer, let us know if you got caught in that. We'd like to know.
But it is a little bit of a risk, so you do have to know that going in.
Is there anybody you would recommend? Or after that, I don't recommend anyone.
No, I do. I recommend Mobile Must Have. Mobile Must Have is our partner for both the hardware and the data plans.
Okay.
So you can only buy a data plan with them if you also buy the hardware. They kind of bundle it together. But they do have some that are kind of unlimited. They're up to like a terabyte. And most people aren't going to use a terabyte in a month. We do, simply because we have all of our video files that we're uploading to Dropbox.
I was about to say, yeah, that's about average.
No, that's the data capture of the hard part. So there are two that our data plans right now. I mentioned we have that AT&T plan that we've had since 2017 that's still chugging along. And whenever I call or do anything with AT&T, I always start the conversation out with, "Do not, under any circumstances, change my plan," because if they do, they'll cut that off. We have our T-Mobile plan through Mobile Must Have. T-Mobile has, just in the last couple of years, really rolled out 5G in a spectacular way, in that they have a certain frequency band that can reach farther than a lot of other carriers.
I was hearing
it's a
that.
lower frequency.
Okay. I heard something like that they were actually doing really well with the 5G.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in this particular location where we are now, it's not that great, but usually we get, when we're traveling, T-Mobile can just be smoking fast, like 200, 250 down, 60 or 70 up, which is way more than you could get previously. It's just amazing. Additionally, they have a band that's called N71. Don't worry about what it is, but it's a lower frequency radio signal, which means it can travel farther. And you don't have to be quite as close to the towers as you do for Verizon or AT&T on those particular bands.
It all depends on what else is on that band. Yeah.
The third data plan we have is through a company called Easy Mobile Data. And again, they are one of those third-party data brokers. And actually, we got the data plan with the hotspot, just in case we ever need to take this hotspot away from the RV and go do something. I can pop that SIM back in here. But we have that, and that's a true unlimited also. The thing is, most of these plans are pretty expensive. The T-Mobile plan is around $160, and so is the Verizon plan. So that's, $340 a month just on 2 data plans.
And then there's Starlink.
And then we have Starlink, which is about $120, $130 a month now. And our AT&T is only $15. So it can be expensive to actually get true unlimited data. It's going to be expensive, but if your business requires it and you travel, and maybe your business is paying for it, I don't know, but
business
or it's a write-off for your own business. Yeah.
So
yeah, certainly we do.
But would you? Sorry, were you going to say something?
I was just saying. So just to kind of recapture this, the Peplink Pepwave. It takes a little bit from each one of these signals and then kind of spreads it out, takes the best, almost like a solar controller,
You say it takes a little of each, right?
Yeah. Or
yeah,
go ahead.
It does. It takes a little bit of each. And it used to be, let's say your connections, the speeds you're going to get are always going to fluctuate up and down and based on a lot of variables. But let's just say you're getting 100 megabits on one, 10 on another, 10 on another, and you bundle all those. It used to be it would only use 10, 10, and 10. It would always default to your lowest capacity. But now they've gotten really good with the Speedfusion that it really just distributes it and uses whatever you have. And that's where it really works out for us, because in cellular world, your download speeds are always much better than your upload speeds. And most people don't care about upload because everything you consume, you're downloading is coming down to you. But for us, because we, as part of our work, what's the word I'm looking for here, our workflow, whenever we take video out, to out filming and stuff, and we put it on our network attached storage, it immediately starts getting synced up to Dropbox. So we have to upload just tons of data. And, when you've only got 3 megabits here and 2 and 10, combining those all together can really help out a lot in speeding up that process.
And your Dropbox is big enough to house your videos up in the cloud.
We currently have 92 terabytes of video data in the cloud.
Wow.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
That's a monthly expense as well, right?
They almost have us. We're at 96.
That's since 2017. We've been uploading it, and there's a whole other Dropbox. The Dropbox plan just recently kind of screwed us. So I'm now having to take some of our Dropbox data and move it over to Amazon S3. That's a whole other story.
All right, so back to the wireless, because I want to make sure that our viewer is able to kind of walk away with an idea of what size system they would need. So we talked about a small and a little bit about a mid. Like, what if, let's just go, like, we don't care. No price. Price is not an option or object. Or price is not a what?
Consideration. How about that?
Sure. Price is not a consideration. Right. So you already said you've got, if you're at 2 plans that are 150 some bucks, then you got one that's 15, and then you also have Starlink. So that's all you have the equipment for that, and then you have to have that Peplink. What's it called?
Yeah, Peplink makes they used to call it Peplink Pepwave. I think it's just called Peplink Routers now, but Peplink makes a whole series of different cellular embedded routers. And that's we didn't really talk about a lot about the hardware, but we talked about, this has a cellular modem embedded in it. This has a cellular modem embedded in this little hotspot. But if I want a general, let's just say I'm using this and then I switch to using this. Well, now I've got to go to all of my TVs, whatever's connected to the internet, my Ring cameras or whatever. I got to change all them over, right? Mm-hmm. But if you have a central router, that's going to be your central core, and this is what our Wi-Fi Ranger was originally. It served our internal Wi-Fi and then connected to hotspots or to other Wi-Fis or something like that.
But every device was always connected to the Ranger. That's how it was in
exactly. So that's like a step up. Wi-Fi Ranger, and again, I don't know much about their hardware these days, but they make a thing called a spruce or something